Ugarte's almost surely going to be sold. Casemiro is leaving. And one of Kabi Menu or Bruno is leaving. Almost guaranteed. Like, Bruno's here. We already know Kabi Menu's probably not going to be here. It's become very, very obvious.
If our next summer goals is getting Elliot Anderson, and we truly believe with data-backed info that he's going to be the one that's going to solidify our midfield, I don't want to hear that because of budget reasons we're not signing him.
Can I just go back to the blasphemy that Semeex just did there? Because this guy has missed 3 games in his United career, and the second he's out for one half. He hasn't even been out for the second game yet. And you're like, see, I told you we should move on to Bruno,
I'm just saying.
Who is a pretty decent box-to-box player. Then there's Leon.
People are gonna hate that
Ooh,
suggestion.
the comments are about to get on fire.
Why? Why are they gonna hate?
No, they just are.
You're not triggering me, dude. You're gonna see the real Bruno talk now. Please join in on every live that I do this week, Semeex, because you're gonna be thrown under the bus.
Next
you
Wednesday.
Definitely don't want. And I've had some people telling me that James has been Bruno out for the longest time too.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm coming with all the smoke for both of you guys.
Hello and welcome back to this Christmas Eve special for the Three Devils podcast. A Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, or whatever else you celebrate to everybody. And I've got the usuals here, Andy with Footy with an Edge and Semeex. And I'm not going to ask Semeex how he's doing because he doesn't like that question. But Andy, I really want to know, how you doing today? How is your holidays going so far?
I'm so good, man. I'm going to answer that twice. I am so good since Semeex isn't going to. How are you doing, James?
Good. I'm doing well. Now, we're just going to get into this because there might be a little bit of anger out there right now, a little bit of frustration, a little bit of sadness, a little bit of coal under the Christmas tree in the stocking after yesterday we find a loss, our first loss in the transfer market of the season so far in Antoine Semenyo, where United made a pretty significant push for him. But in the end, the saga kind of played out at least quickly. We didn't have to wait till the end of January to find this out. It was December 23rd. We found out that Antoine Semenyo chose Manchester City to join over United, and a little bit of disappointment there after United pushed for it. What are you guys thinking on this? Let's go to you, Semeex, since you don't want to talk about how you're doing. So this might be a bit reflecting how you're doing. What do you think about this? How you feel?
Yeah, this is 100% reflecting of how I'm doing because I'm not doing good. It was a wake-up call, but also something that it was a concern of mine for the whole last 10 days. So it wasn't really a true wake-up call in that I always knew that this could happen. I always feared that this could happen. And then the explanations as to why it happened and how it happened is really, you can really get stuck in the weeds. And the truth is, it just comes down to the fact that I think it's maybe financially related, but also forget the finances for a second. He's making a choice onto a team that has an actual chance of winning a trophy this year. So yes, we can talk about the finances, which I'm sure will come up because I'm sure that is also a factor. But as a fan, the thing that bothers me the most is that we don't have any kind of like competition to offer. All we have to offer is a dream and a hope, right? We sit down, I've watched both you guys' lives this whole week, and you say things like, it's going to come down to, can Jason Wilcox, can Ruben Amorim convince him in the project that we have going on? And you're right. I'm not saying this as a negative towards either one of you because I would say the same thing if I went live this week. But the thing is, like, the project isn't really looking that good. The steps going forward haven't gone forward big enough, as you can see in the fan base. The fan base is even torn apart on whether or not to back the project so far or not, right? And now we're trying to convince someone who may only have 4, 5 more good years in his career left before he starts aging to buy into a project that we haven't really. Last summer was our chance to really start to rebuild this team. And don't get me wrong, I like every single signing we made last summer, but I didn't think it was enough. And I think that it's starting to prove that it wasn't enough. And now we're asking people to buy into this dream, this project, this whatever you want to call it. That's where I'm at. I'm kind of nervous about it. I have a lot more to say about it, and I'm sure I'll get my chance to speak again. But I kind of want to leave it right there for Andy to pick up and take to wherever he wants to take.
Semeex, I'm gonna make your Christmas Eve a lot worse. Because I think this decision by Semenyo is a peek into the same decision that Elliot Anderson's gonna make in the summer.
I 100% agree with you.
It's a peak. Yeah.
That's where I wanted to go with that.
For it.
I have a fire inside me that I'm like holding back so we can have a reasonable podcast, because that's exactly my next thing. It's like, now don't tell me that we're going to wait till summer to get our midfield targets, because I don't think we're going to get those either. Especially if it's Elliot Anderson. Like, okay, I think this podcast is about to go on a roller coaster ride, because you're opening up the floodgates of my emotions. And that's why I asked you not to ask me how I'm doing, because yes, Elliot Anderson, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. I don't see how we get Elliot Anderson if someone else is in for him, like a Liverpool, like a City, like an Arsenal even. And, I think that sometimes we try to justify things. I saw this on James's stream. We try to justify things by saying, why would he want to go there? There's so many other players he'd compete with in that position, which is totally makes sense. But if your choices are compete with these other top tier players or buy into a dream that may or may not happen, you go, look, if we were challenging, that argument makes a lot more sense. I'd go, well, they're challenging for titles too, and I don't have to compete with that many players.
So here's the thing, Semeex. It's a chicken and egg problem, because we need these players to start challenging, and the players are looking at it as like, well, if I come in there and get even a 3-month injury, it looks like you can't challenge, right? Or even a 1-month injury, you can't challenge. So why would I risk my career for the potential to come win something with you and then get the wages in 2-3 years that a Man City, a Chelsea, a Liverpool can pay me now? And here's the thing. I think James alluded to it a second ago, where he said United's wages are actually accurately reported. There's this a Twitter handle called Swiss Ramble who does this investigation. He's like a business lawyer. Apparently, almost every other top club, their wages are underreported by 30%. It probably has something to do with the fact that United are publicly listed, right? So we have to go through the proper disclosures. But still, like, City are currently paying Omar Marmoush $295,000 in base wages and £73,750 in bonuses. Okay, that guy's making almost as much money as Bernardo Silva at that club, and Rodri, the Ballon d'Or winner, is on a $220K contract. So I just don't see, like, Semenyo is just a peek into every other top transfer that we're going to miss out on. And now I'm sitting here wondering how the hell we got Brian Mbeumo and Mateus Cunha to come here in the first place. Right. So, James, maybe you can put us out of our misery or just pile onto it.
Nah, I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna do the opposite a little bit, because I wanna take a couple steps back on a few things on this, right? First of all, stepping out into the grand scheme of things. It's one player, Antoine Semenyo. It's a player where even this last summer, we had issues with finance with him, issues with convincing him due to wages that were being offered. Even during the same time, we were able to bring in Mbeumo. We were able to bring in Šeško over other clubs. We were able to bring in Cunha over other clubs. Arsenal were in for Cunha and Mbeumo, and they're competing for titles right now. And you're right in a sense that, yes, you're selling them on a dream and all of that. However, I think that dream itself is a draw. Being the person who brings United back, being somebody who does that, is going to result in someone having their name remembered more than anybody else. Bruno Fernandes has won how many trophies at United? 2. That's it in all his years here. Just the FA Cup and the Europa, the League Cup, right? That's it. He's won only those trophies, but he's going to be viewed, even in that sense, as one of the greatest Premier League players of the last 10, 15 years. Because
we went to 2 Europa League finals
United.
with Bruno, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy, because the last one we won was with Jose in 2016.
Before Bruno. Yep.
Damn.
Yep. And so it's like, I look at it and I go, the thing is that there's more to it than Manchester United. You're going to, here's the thing, right? Nobody remembers players who go to City and disappear and don't become a part of the greatness. And there's a lot of them. Nobody remembers the guys who went to Chelsea and then left after a season or two. And there's a lot of them. but people remember United players. People remember them. It does so much. I mean, even if you just look at things like their Instagram follows, the numbers that you get from joining United are astronomical compared to anybody else in England, no matter what you do right now. And that can have obvious impacts on their careers, on their long-term, on their post-football careers, on what it does for them. You know, even mediocre United players end up in punditry and things like that because of the names that they've gotten and everything. So I think it comes down to mostly financial, and I don't think that we're going to lose out to every other club because of financial reasons and all of that. I think players make different decisions. But the other thing I want to say is that I don't think that the view on the project being not so good is reflected within football spaces. I mean, when you look at a stats thing, it was being published the other day by a few journalists. United are the third best performing team in the Premier League right this season. And we know that on points, we're not getting it. But people in football look at that kind of stuff. They do see that kind of stuff and they say, if you're an analyst, if you're a guy in football, you're looking at stats, you're looking at numbers, you're looking at things, and you're going, hang on a second. United are actually probably the closest club right now to hitting
James,
that inflection point of picking up way more wins.
On this point, I was discussing this on one of my lives this week, which is if you're a Semenyo agent, right, or anybody in the Semenyo camp, you're not getting swept away with the noise that's in the media, which is like, you know, Amorim's crap, Amorim out, all, you know, they're not sitting there watching Goldbridge for their analysis, right? Let's just be honest. So I think they're sitting there looking at it in a realistic perspective, saying these guys are on a serious uptick. The underlying numbers are really good, and look at what he's able to do with these, you know, not so good players in the squad, right? Because Patrick Dorgu had arguably his best game against Aston Villa, and he created 2 of our 3 best chances. So how a player can come to United and actually even get better is what these guys are thinking. If you're bought into the wages are okay and everything else is okay. So I hear you on that.
Yeah, and again, they've made it pretty clear in the past they want people who really want to be at United, because we went down the road of competing on wages with these guys before, and it didn't really do anything for us. You know, there is a mercenary personality, and it's a player who gives up then when the adversity
Alexis
hits.
Sanchez.
We've had a lot of those, and they sunk us pretty far. And again, I know it sounds like sour grapes and things like this, but I did tweet it yesterday as well, and said, look, whether we like it or not, it is true that we need players who accept the position United are in and want to build from it. And that's not gonna be everybody. You're right. It's gonna reduce the scope of who we can get. But that's the truth of our situation. So we have to have those players. We have to have guys who are a little bit nuts, like Cunha, who really want to be the guy to bring this club back. I mean, look at Cunha the last few games. You can see he's wanting to take more responsibilities, wanting to pull this club up. He doesn't seem put off by the losses. He doesn't seem put off by the things. I mean, sometimes it helps when they come from a club where they're used to losing a lot more rather than coming from big clubs like we used to buy from, where they're used to winning. They come to United, they start losing, and they go, what the hell am I doing here? You know what I mean? They're not used to that. But that's my thing. And I think moving on from that, part of the question I want to have is, yeah, it's disappointing because Semenyo's a good player. We're always going to be disappointed when we miss out, and we obviously wanted him. Did we really need him? Did we need him? I think yes. I think he would have made a big difference adding more goal threat, especially given all the positions we need on the pitch. But did we need him so much that it's worth it, or was it more of a luxury this season that later on, obviously, we're going to need more attackers?
My bigger concern is the fact that we focused on him since last summer. We've been in this relationship and engaged in this negotiation for a long, long time. And I'm worried as to the realism in our negotiators and our higher-ups' heads that if they actually believed they had a good chance of getting him and then not getting him, and what that does to recruitment planning, which is something I want you to discuss a little bit. But just to answer your question, when it comes down to did we need him on the pitch, not as desperately as we need other positions. Did we need him? Yes. But is he in the top 3 priorities right now? No. He's probably 4th down the list. We could have definitely used him, especially in a time like this when there's no Brian Mbeumo and there's no Bruno Fernandes. The fact that I don't believe in our bench at all. I don't believe in our roster or squad as a kind of squad that can finish top 4 or 5. I do think our starting 11 has a good chance of finishing in the top 4 or 5, but there's no guarantees whatsoever. Like, I still predicted that we're a 9th to 7th place team before the season started, and I still stand by that. I don't think we're a top 5 team. I just don't. Now, can we do it? Can we get the best out of everyone in the starting 11 and do it? Yes. But do I think that once we lose 2 or 3 players, like a Bruno Fernandes, like a Brian Mbeumo, like a Ahmad, can we do it? No, I don't think we can do it with the current, in the state the current squad is in. So to answer your question, no, he wasn't the top number 1, 2, or 3rd priority for me, but definitely something that we could have used. And I think we all could agree that Semenyo could have been a figure in this roster for the next 5 years. Like, he wasn't somebody that I think we would have got rid of in 2 years.
I think there's a case to be made for some hopium/copium here also, right? Because I think had Ornstein come out and said he chooses United, we'd all be celebrating. Right? Because there was a comment on my live stream yesterday, like, you guys just seem a little bitter that he chose City over you. I was like, you know what? Fair enough. Because I think if he comes to us, especially with Bruno injured, he becomes a key part to our team, like, right away. I would agree with you, Semeex, that he's still probably not the number 1 priority, but I would have said he would have been number 2 or 3, in my opinion. Just because, and we've talked about this before, in how the left side becomes just as strong as the right-hand side, in how, let's be honest, Šeško hasn't hit the ground running yet. So if we play him as the striker, that gives us the fluid front 3 option that, Amorim has liked to go with in terms of Cunha, in terms of Mbeumo and Mount, or Cunha, Mbeumo, somebody else. So I just look at it and say, we're still reeling from this. This is whatever stage of grief you want to call it, for missing out on a top player. And I think the United of 5 bad transfer windows ago can probably do this just based on the financial muscle they have available. But, we've talked about this a lot of times, like, sins of 2023. Like, 2023 was one of the worst transfer windows we've ever had. And we're still going to pay for that till like 2028, because some of those contracts go on for 5 years. Right? So that Rashford contract, Onana contract, those clubs aren't going to pay us the money, dude. They're just going to keep taking these players out on loan, which means we keep missing out on players like Semenyo and potentially other players as well. So did we need him? Yes. But we just can't afford him.
So, yeah, I mean, look, it makes sense that we do know that factually United just aren't going to pay the type of wages we used to, and aren't going to pay wages that compete with the actual wages being offered by City, not the ones you might be seeing out there that are never as high as they actually are. I mean, they're paying Haaland $1 million a week. We're never going to be in that ballpark right now, you know what I mean? And it's hard to say whether even that is all properly being reported within the structures and everything like that as it comes to financial regulations. But
let me ask you, James,
play by the rules.
Do you believe he's worth $1 million a week?
Haaland?
Yeah.
If you're winning everything, why not? But I think it also comes down to, like, I don't know what that would actually mean. If you have your finances being properly reported in terms of the financial regulations, like, I feel like, I think we know this. I mean, there's 115 charges sitting out there saying that this is the case, that if City were having to report properly, they wouldn't have been able to afford all of this. And so they would have had to make huge cuts elsewhere to afford a player like Haaland on $1 million a week. From a sense of, like, if you're winning everything, does the money matter? No, but they certainly would be and have been in violation of these rules and should have had penalties and the inability to do what they've done in the market. So I don't think anybody can be paid that much based on the current rules when you have to build out a whole squad if you're properly reporting everything.
I totally understand that, and I agree with you in that sense. But let's say they did it legally. If they had done it legally, is Haaland's goals, prestige of having him, the name that he brings, and the way he performs, is that adding to sponsorship dollars in the end? Because companies might want to associate themselves with having Holland wearing a shirt with their brand on it. Oh, and also, are his goals winning you enough games to get you extra money in Champions League or, league finishes and stuff like that?
It's not just that, right? It's not just that. It's how many kids are becoming Man City fans now for the rest of their
100%.
lives.
Very good point.
That matters.
Excellent
Right?
point. Amazing
No,
point.
look, after winning the treble, yes, but it's not money you give somebody on the way up, but once they've won you everything and they're still in their prime age, then I think
James, I'd actually slightly disagree with that. I think Haaland is actually still underpaid. Because you look at somebody like Kylian Mbappe, he makes a lot more money, and you compare, we're in and around America here. You compare to the basketball salaries, like the football salaries are still peanuts, right?
Yep.
And when you're talking about the highest shirt sales, the most impact on the pitch, because goals win games, right? There is an argument to be made that the impact Haaland has had this year, that some of the other players are stealing a living compared to him. Right. So I think it looks like a big number to us, and it is a big number. I'm not saying it's he's not getting paid enough. My point is that you could look at somebody like him and say, actually, he should be getting more money, because even Ronaldo, if you look at his career and how much money he's made, how many Champions Leagues did this guy carry Real Madrid to by himself? And you still had so many high paid players in that team, right? I think that's the angle.
Where I'm trying to go with this conversation, or where I was trying to go with what I was saying, which, by the way, I love everything I'm hearing from both of you guys here, is that maybe we're overcorrecting a little bit with Ineos. Maybe I understand wanting to be like, hey, we're going to be budget conscious, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and that's totally fine, and I get it, and there needs to be that. I get that. But maybe we're going, but then sometimes there's going to be those opportunities of players that are going to take us up a notch, who are going to demand. Here's why I'm saying this. It's all going back to our next summer goals. If our next summer goals is getting Elliot Anderson, and we truly believe with data backed info that he's going to be the one that's going to solidify our midfield, I don't want to hear that because of budget reasons we're not signing him.
Yeah, I don't think that's the issue, but I also think that there has to be a limitation to this, because if you end up in a financial arms race with Man City,
you're going to lose.
It's a losing game. Like, you end up going nowhere, because they're just going to keep driving that number up. No matter what you do, they're going to keep driving that number up.
We used to win those financial arms races with the same Man City, with the same owners, right? With Alexis Sanchez, let's say. Not that it was a good idea. I'm not saying it was a good idea. That was just poor planning, not using data, taking some scouts' word for it, or whatever it was. Whereas now, hopefully, we're picking our targets based on actual data analysis and actual, having a set plan of how we're going to play football and what kind of players we need. So, this is.
I think it's a bit bigger than that, though. Let's say you go give Elliot Anderson $450,000 a week next year.
God, I hope not.
Because City are offering that. What do you turn around and tell Brian Mbeumo and Cunha, who are better players than Elliot Anderson,
Bruno Fernandes, dude,
more? What do you go tell them now? Because their agents are walking in, knocking on your door the next day and saying, we want to double our salaries. That's actually what screwed up our whole wage crisis in the past, where we ended up with some of the top wages in the league, because where we didn't deserve it, because we go and give Alexis Sanchez $450, and then guys were sitting there at the club, Anthony Martial, Rashford, Shaw, they're going, hey, we've been here a few years. We've done a lot more.
That's why we lost out on Herrera, by the way. Herrera's agent wanted $300K when his contract was expiring. He was looking at the money these other guys are making. I mean, Kobbie Mainoo right now won't agree a contract, because he's still thinking, his agent's still thinking, with the money that United have been given to academy players, to 200,000, 250,000, things like that. That's a big part of the problem that's gone on there. I think that I remember looking at, in terms of a rebuild, both Liverpool and Arsenal, when they rebuilt their team, they dropped their wages to 6th or 7th highest in the league during their rebuild phase under Klopp and Arteta. And then they climbed it up to second, third, second, first not necessarily first in any case because of City, but they dropped them to those reasonable levels, and they picked up guys like Van Dijk, who came in on pretty ordinary wages. I mean, Liverpool only now are giving those big bumper deals out. So I think they're evidence that you can pick up really good talents and some of the best, of the rest players,
get them on good wages, not crazy wages, but good wages, and then start giving them bumpers once they win things for you and they start getting there. We have to stick to that.
Also,
I think we have
Semeex, to answer your question about the why can't we just pay the wages that Man City, or like try to compete with Man City? I don't think you're saying pay the same wages. Yep. You're saying compete with them. I actually think this is this might be a way too early shout, but I actually think Man City are on their way down since that Marmoush contract, because there are certain things they're essentially indexing for winning 4 titles in a row, right? The way they're paying wages right now. And there's rumors about Pep Guardiola leaving the project. Okay, maybe he doesn't leave it this summer, but eventually he's going to leave, right? Like you can already see he's jaded. He seems like he wants maybe something new or a break, whatever it is. And I just look at that and say, if you're going to pay somebody like Marmoush, who's done exactly what? Like a Bundesliga player who had a good season, and you're paying him 370 whatever thousand per week. Like that is crazy amount of money to pay someone like that. Now Semenyo comes in, who's had, let's say, a season and a half that's really good in the Premier League, and he's demanding that kind of wage. Let's say he gets 250,000. Let's say Semenyo doesn't have a good season, right? So you can already see that the 4 titles winning City that was there with the Gundogans, with the De Bruynes, with the other consistent players may not be around in the market just because you want to pay them those high wages, right? So you are actually, even they are at very risk of thinking very short term, because they're looking at Semenyo, to me, very much as, we get this guy, we're probably winning the league this year, right? And that's fair enough, but that has repercussions moving forward that they will have to pay for. So that's what we're trying to stay away from. We've done it for way too long, right? We've had 12, 13 years of horrible leadership, right? With Paul Pogba making the kind of money he was making. And it's not about the quality. How injury prone was Paul Pogba? We still kept giving him contract after contract.
For sure. But look, here's the thing. All right, look, we're gonna get to this in these conversations as well. United do have the money to spend. That's the important part to note here. Like, United are not broke right now. They do have money to spend, and they've got to spend it somewhere. But I think the conversation on this can because we'll all see where it ends up in the future. I mean, we might be surprised about certain things on this, but where should we spend this money, honestly? Like right now, where should this money be spent in January? Because they do have the money. They can spend. We know they were ready to pay a release clause of 60 million plus 5 on Semenyo or something like that. We've known since the end of summer that they've had the money. They went in for Baleba at 60 to 70 million or so in terms of fee. We know that financially they could, and they sold players since then, and they moved Garnacho, and Højlund looks like that one's going to end up getting done, and Onana's on loan, and there's other things that have happened even since then. United have probably more money than they're letting on, again, wanting to be responsible spending it, but they definitely do have the money. So no excuses there in terms of money. And to be fair, we haven't really heard like, well, United don't have the money to spend in January. What we've heard is that the long-term target's got to be available for us to spend in January. So we got to stick to that kind of discipline, right? But where is the best place to spend it now? I mean, you've got Kobbie Mainoo with maybe it's an injury, maybe it's an unexplained absence, right? You've got Bruno Fernandes getting injured. There should be some alarm bells going off on there, because yes, he'll be back in like a month, maybe a little bit less. But when a player his age starts picking up soft tissue injuries, you have to be worried about overworking him, regardless of whether you're saying he's going to get him again. You have to start cutting that workload down. You have to. There's nothing else you could do about it. Otherwise, you really risk continuing recurring injuries at that point. Our whole midfield is like, there's not one player in there right now you would say 100% they're going to be here next year and everything's going to be fine. There's not one. We got to do something, right? I mean, bringing it to you, Semeex, on this, we have to do something there, don't we? Practically anything. I'm not usually like that with transfers, but there's so much need. I practically don't think there's a player we've been linked to that wouldn't help our midfield right now. All right, we'll get back to it, but if you've liked the podcast so far, make sure you like, subscribe, hype the video, do all of that. Both of these guys' channels are below as well. Make sure you subscribe to all three. The podcast every week is alternating between the channels, and we all offer different, unique forms of content that I think you will enjoy. So let's get back to it.
James, just like you said, man, like I am desperate for a midfielder right now to the point where I don't care if it's a long-term target or someone that's going to be on the bench for us long-term, as long as he's useful long-term. Like I don't want to buy someone just because they're available and cheap, which is my fear with Ruben Neves. With Ruben Neves, I feel like if we pick him up, it'll be literally because of the price tag and price tag. I don't want to say price tag only because that's really, really harsh. He's obviously got some skill sets or some characteristics that we could really benefit from, but he's definitely a gamble. Being someone who's been out of a quick league like the Premier League for so long, playing in Saudi where the weather is completely different, the pace of the game is completely different. He has probably acclimatized to that kind of scenario, and he's played international football, which is also a very, very slow-paced environment, and then having to jump back into the Premier League at an older age than what he was when he left. It's just a little bit scary for me, but I think that they would only be doing that for the price tag. So I've heard you say this on your recent lives that you're still in for Joao Gomes. You still wish we would get I'm with you there. I'm looking at Ederson, I'm looking at Joao Gomes, and I'm thinking, why aren't we getting one of those guys? Conor Gallagher, for me, would be another one of those things where you're going, okay, man, this is starting to look like it's all about the budget as opposed to who we think is going to be the best fit for us and long term. Because Conor Gallagher, we can get on loan, and a lot of people have said, why not Conor Gallagher on loan? Well, honestly, it's because of mentality to me. It just doesn't feel like a winner's mentality if we go get Conor Gallagher on loan. I don't want to put down a current player of ours, but it feels a lot like January when we picked up Dorgu. When I'm like, okay, he's had maybe a half a good season with Lecce, and we're going after this kid. And now we're having to witness the growing pains of having Dorgu. I'm not saying Dorgu's bad, but we all have to admit Dorgu needs another 2 seasons to come good. Okay, he might not come good. I don't want this anymore. Like, I want winner mentality. You don't have to get me Baleba or Anderson right now because those are like $100 million buys, but you do need to get me the guy who's going to be challenging Baleba or Anderson in the future and forcing them to be playing at their top level, or else they're going to be sitting on the bench. That's the guy I want.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for sure. And I think it like I say, when you look at the question marks around all 4 midfielders, I don't think it's a time when you can say, well, we need to make sure we're getting just our starting long-term midfield in there, because we need more than that. We're going to need, like you say, guys challenging. And I mean, even imagine, since there's been a lot of talk about this, even though it's not totally correct, even imagine we switch to a 4 at the back at some point and we need 3 midfielders. But then you need 6 in a squad, not 4. And we've got 0 that we can reliably count on right now for sure next season. 0. So there's to me like a massive almost crisis loading here on this midfield, where you could go into next summer and sign Anderson and go, yeah, our midfield's fixed, and you end up with Anderson and some kid. And it's like, that's not good enough. And then how are you going to rotate? And you're playing in Europe and you're trying to do all this, like, even if we were to get our top target. So, we need 2 or 3. Well, surely one of them's available now. One of those squad options is
to add to that. These players like Anderson, they're going to choose their next club based on who they're going to play next to, right? Because there's a lot of things Anderson's right. Anderson's going to be thinking to himself, well, wait a minute, if I go United, who's playing next to me? Because that partnership in midfield is so important, and we know that, right? We've talked about it in our own club. Casemiro, Bruno, Ugarte, Menu. Does the partnership work? These guys, Anderson might just be like, well, I'm going to go to City because my partner might be him, and I could see myself working with them. Whereas with United, he's going to be like, well, if I go to United, I'm going to hope and pray that they sign these people. We'll be selling them dreams.
Yeah, you don't want to put Orozco next to him and say, yeah, Anderson, here you go. And I'm proven 18-year-old from Colombia is going to be your next partner. No matter how highly we rate him, that's going to be a rough sell. So what do you think, Andy? I mean, is it got to be do we have to just get something in the midfield in January? Like, there's got to be players available that could help us, short and long term.
So here's the other angle, guys, which is, if we're going to actually move on from both Casemiro and Bruno in the summer, wouldn't you want somebody to come in and learn the ropes while they're still here? because I think that's not being talked about enough. I mean, in my opinion, we talk so much crap about Casemiro in the midfield. We talk so much crap about Bruno in the midfield. Yet we had one half without either of them in the team. And, let's be honest, we were kind of shitting bricks about what could happen. Now, Villa had a horrible performance, in my opinion. That wasn't necessarily just us playing super well against Villa. They were kind of not doing anything, right? They were sitting back, and Emery's instructions were to not press, to not really pressure us too much. It was like, let's just give the ball to Morgan and maybe he can win us the game, and he did. That would be my concern. I am looking at Transfermarkt right now at players that are out of contract in 2026, that are midfielders or defensive midfielders. And I have just found here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 midfielders that we could potentially go get. Or actually 5, and then one other one that's not out of contract. So the first one here is Quinten Timber, who's Jurrien Timber's brother. He plays in the Netherlands in the Dutch league. He's only 24 years old. And this is somebody that we could potentially, tease and go get from Feyenoord if they want like 5 million, 6 million, something. Weston McKennie plays at Juventus, right? American player, who is a pretty decent box-to-box player. Then there's
People are gonna hate
Leon.
that. People are gonna hate that
Ooh,
suggestion.
the comments are
Why?
about to get on fire.
Why?
People are gonna
Why are
hate
they going
that
to hate?
No, they just are.
Yep.
He's a better
Okay.
player than he gets credit for.
Yeah,
Just
we're
like
a
Tyler
North
Adams
American
was actually
podcast,
quite
and
good. And
No,
people
I don't,
had
you
the
guys are
same
making
thing about Tyler Adams. You would
Yep.
suggest him before, and
Yep.
people would be like, "Oh, he's awful, he's terrible,"
Yep.
but he's a solid player.
No,
Go
Weston
ahead.
McKennie's first of all better than
Yeah.
Tyler Adams in my opinion, right? And
As
he's also
box-
very
at
good box to box.
as an 8, yes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not
As
as
a
a
box to
6.
box,
Not
yeah.
as a 6. Like,
No, he's a box to box player. That's what we need, right? Like we're talking about literally a Bruno replacement. Like why can't we go get Weston McKennie? Then the other player is Leon Goretzka. He's out of contract from Bayern Munich. He's making £250,000 a week, but I think Bayern doesn't want to give him that money, so why would we? Right? I think we could tempt him with a Premier League offer at 150, 180, something like that. Then there's also Yves Bissouma. And again, he has a bad injury record at Tottenham, so I'm not saying we should go get him, but my point is these are probably the players that we should be looking at as tap-ins, as a squad player to come in and potentially contribute to the squad even till the end of the season, because at least one of these players will be open to a loan with option to buy, which means we can just get a solution till the end of the window, just like we got with Sabitzer, similar to how we got Weghorst as well, right? So I think that's not a bad market to be in necessarily, because if you asked Ineos, like deep down, like would you rather get some Band-Aid solutions till the end of the season that are temporary, like a Conor Gallagher as well? Or would you rather spend big money now? I think they don't want to spend big money now because they're
but I
worried
don't
about
care
how much
what
money
they
have
want.
to
Like,
pay.
I'm done with caring what they want, guys. I'm sorry, man. Like, I can't do this. I can't be like, oh, let's go get another Sabitzer. Are we building to win, or are we doing this like let's patch the holes on the ship and hope it doesn't sink? Are we building a new boat, or are we patching holes? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm so no more of this, like, trying to solve Ineos's problems. Trying to solve Ineos's problems is not my problem. I thought that's what they did already by laying off 400
But
people.
Semeex, we just talked about how we have so many problems in the squad. Not all of them are just build a new house. Some of them are let's get a new garage done.
But
Let's build a new basement.
I wish I could quote you, because you made one of the best videos in the last 10 days talking about how Ederson would help us out. Ederson's not exactly not a tap-in either. He's not that expensive. I mean, his contract's almost running out. I wish I could remember exactly how you worded it, because you did such a great job in that video. Guys, whoever hasn't seen Footy with an Edge's Ederson video, go watch it. It was about in the last 10 days. Really good video. He pointed out data that even I didn't know about Ederson. Go and watch it, and Andy, I want to put you back into that headspace. It's your headspace. I'm not trying to convince you of something I said. You know what I mean?
No, I'm not. Hold on. So my point is that we need a lot of players, right? We don't just need one player to solve the solution. And I'm saying go get one of these out of contract players like Ruben Neves or any of these other guys. My point is actually why don't we look at one of these guys and potentially one of the guys that we want to go for? And I'm including Ederson in that, right?
Okay.
I've actually moved away from João Gomes at this point.
Wait, are you saying you're asking for 2 then?
Yes, I'm asking for 2 midfielders because I just look at our squad right now. And here's the truth, right? I mean, for all the Kobe Mainu, whether he fits in or out, shake it all about, whatever we're talking about, I think with Kobe Mainu, he's proved himself to be an incredibly injury-prone player, right? At 20 years old, he's constantly out due to injury, and it reminds me a lot.
He doesn't even play that much. Like it's scary when you're getting injured and you're complaining about playing time.
Yeah, I made this point on a live the other day. I was talking about that exact thing, like just how silly the whole situation was. I think it was on Monday that, you look at this whole thing from Kobe Mainu and you look at his record the last 2 seasons. He missed half a season. He was already out of England because of injuries, by the way. He wasn't out because Ruben Amorim dropped him. He was out because of injuries before he's been dropped from playing so much. He was out because of injuries. And then, it's about if you don't have that track record of fitness, you can't sit there making demands to play. The players who play are the ones who have a track record of fitness more often than not. It's the guys who can be reliable. Harry Maguire, even De Ligt stepping in over him was because largely due to Harry Maguire's injuries, because he was seen as a player that was more valuable after last season, and even talks about a new contract. Now Harry's injured it continues to be injured. So of course we're not hearing anymore about contracts and things like that. But injuries are a huge part of that. And that, that on the Kobe discussion is something that goes under the radar, that the moment you get a break and it's time, you can't be fit. Like, no one's blaming a player for the way that their body breaks down or that these things happen, but you have to be able to observe that yourself and say, you know what? I can't be sitting here demanding this and demanding that if I can't get on the pitch when it's the most important time for me to get on the pitch right now.
Well, to be fair, I think his brother punched him in the calf, if you catch my drift.
Maybe that's what it was, right? But look, I agree with you on these points on adding potentially a couple midfielders. The thing is, I just think there's got to be options, but I guess more so I'm looking at it and saying, surely with how many midfielders we need, knowing that it's very unlikely to get more than one, if we can get one, of the Baleba, Anderson, Wharton trio, the hyped 3 that are like the most wanted midfielders in England, that everybody's going to be chasing. Surely we know it's going to be hard to get more than one. And even then, we know we're going to need at least 1 or 2 more after that this coming summer for sure. I mean, Ugarte's almost surely going to be sold. Casemiro is leaving. And one of Kobe Mainu or Bruno is leaving, almost guaranteed. Like, Bruno's here, we already know Kobe Mainu's probably not going to be here. It's become very, very obvious. Even if Bruno leaves, Kobe Mainu could end up not being here. It's not nailed on. But so surely they've got a bigger list than just those 3 of saying, even if they felt really confident and had like someone's guaranteed word that they're coming in summer, we still need more midfielders. Right? So I'm looking at it and going, I know other names. There's guys like Sadiki at Sunderland that people are looking at, that United are watching, among other clubs as well. Going to be probably 50, 60 million if you want to get him. Should they not go and do something like that? Would that not help to say, let's go get somebody like that right now? Why not try for him? This is what we could do in January. This is what's happening with Semenyo. Obviously, it's a release clause, but leaving a club that's in the Premier League right now. I mean, Sunderland are doing well. They look pretty safe from relegation, but you add them 60 million, they could go spend and reinforce their team and all. Go and do something like that. That's what I want to see, is go do something ambitious. And I think that's sort of Semeex' point too as well on this, is not just Band-Aids, but go do something ambitious. I like the Semenyo thing because I thought it was ambitious to say, cool, well, let's go for a really, really good top target player now. Yeah, you have the release clause that makes it so, of course, you've got to try now, but go take that money and go to somebody else and say, help us out. Because there's a lot of players. There has to be more. There has to be more than just these 3 that we're going to add to our midfield next summer.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, it would be a pipe dream for them to think they're going to get Carlos Baleba, Elliot Anderson, and maybe even Wharton in one summer. Like, they're not going to say get yeses from every single one of those guys. And there's no there's no guarantee that Baleba's not going to start pulling up trees again for the last 5 games of the season, and then Brighton says 100 million. It's going to be 100 million. Do you see the way he played the last 5 games?
Yeah, I mean, they were already talking like they're going to wait to sell him until his value goes way back up, and they'll just turn down any offers. Like, it's concerning, if I agree with you.
Yeah, so, and then I think something Andy did in a video he released this morning, I believe it was this morning, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, because I just watched a couple of your videos before we went live. You said that maybe we need to start looking outside of the Premier League. Even though the plan has been to get Premier League proven players, those players are already used to higher wages. They're already used to being surrounded by other players who have high wages if they don't. And they go, hey, I just upped my game, and I know that my caliber player in this league gets 250 or 300 grand a week. So maybe we need to poach from other leagues and bring them in. And that brings me back to Ederson. But Andy, was that a video you did this morning just to let the people know if they want to see it?
Yeah, that's correct. I did a video this morning about why the Semenyo situation tells us that we're going to miss out on other elite talent. And that's the thing, right? Like Ineos has come out and said it with their chest, so to speak, that we're going to go for Premier League proven players. And that's the whole reason we've been linked with, Baleba and Anderson and Wharton for such a long time. My point is, Anderson and Wharton are both in the England squad, right? They're going to both go play the World Cup, and England players have a hard enough time not being overhyped, and England are going to like crash out at the quarterfinals or something, and everyone's going to be like, it's coming home.
Oh,
right?
Man. Please direct your comments at Andy from Footy with an Edge.
Please do. Please do. I'm here for all the smoke, because here's the thing, right? The England setup tends to celebrate like losing in a final more than they do actually winning something, right? And that's a beef I have, because listen, I always support England whenever I watch it, because I support the Premier League. Like half the players I watch every week are in the England team. So why wouldn't I want England to do well? But it's the whole, anyways, whatever. We're getting into the philosophy of what happens in the UK. But I'm just looking at this and saying these players are going to be so expensive in the summer, and we're going to be priced out of not just the wage battle, but also the transfer fee battle, because Marinakis at Nottingham Forest is going to look at this and say, well, he's a starting England midfielder. He's had an amazing season, almost carrying us single-handedly. Give me 150 million, or we're not even talking, right? And what are we going to do then? Because City has that money. City can go spend maybe 120, 130 type of money and get a midfielder that plays for 10 years, right? Chelsea could do that. Chelsea could look at and say, we're going to get rid of some of our assets. Like, who's that Belgian midfielder they have that they purchased from Southampton? I forget his name. Lavia. Romeo Lavia.
Yeah.
Yep. So they might move on from some of their assets like Wesley Fofana, Romeo Lavia, like these guys, and just say, okay, we have some more money. We can just solidify our midfield 3 for like the next 10 years and just play Caicedo, Anderson, and Enzo Fernandez in the midfield. So we're just going to be in for a rude awakening. And the one thing I will say, I agree with Semeex, is that for a player like that, if there's a world where you can offer 90, 100 million now and just tempt Forest into selling, that might be a conversation we want to have, because I'm telling you that 190 is going to be 120. That 200K that Anderson's asking for is going to be 250, 300 in the summer.
Yeah, he's only getting better, isn't he? Like every week I'm like, geez, this guy is actually really good. James, I'm telling you right now that I'm tuning in every day from now till summer until you tell me that we have some targets outside the Premier League. Like that's what I'm every time.
Oh, we do certainly. And that.
Sorry, can I just add on that one last thing? Carlos Baleba was purchased from the French league, right? Brighton got him from the French league.
Yeah.
And the French league is actually proving to be one of the more physical leagues outside of the Premier League.
Yep.
And the Portuguese league is also pretty physical. That's why I don't like the Bundesliga, because they're not as physical. They're more about like pace and space, right? So I look at the French league as one that can really provide us some solid players. And I've been banging my chest about this guy, Lamine Camara, right? Lamine Camara at Monaco is the guy, man. He can pass, he can dribble, he's very good defensively. He reminds me of a slightly taller N'Golo Kante, and I know that's a big claim to make, but if you guys are watching this, go check out some compilations of Lamine Camara. He's a fantastic player, and I would love to have him.
I need to check him out, but I've heard James say Buwadi. Like for, I don't know, like 2 months ago or a month ago, I heard James say Buwadi, and I started watching.
Plays for Lille.
Yeah, I watched one of his games, and I was like, oh, this kid is silky smooth, and he's got the physicality. Like, I liked him, too.
Yeah, he's definitely on our radar, so it'd be an interesting one to see if we go. I think Arsenal have already kind of starting getting their claws in on that one, too, actually. They've sort of made some moves.
But he is 18, though, right? That's the concern.
He's young. Yeah, I mean... Again, that's one I think you got to get in addition to your proven guys and all of that. But at the same time, too, it's one I look at and go, yeah, he is young. Maybe, like you said, getting him now where he could play behind Bruno and Casemiro, rotating in as that third midfielder who comes on every game, who starts
for 6
sometimes.
months. Yeah, for 6 months.
The next 6 months would be a good learning experience rather than like Patrick Dorgu getting thrown in. You got to play every single game no matter what. But in speaking of outside the Premier League, and an interesting thing here, sort of the next section of this that I wanted to move on to was recently the performances. I think it's kind of funny, right? Because we've been sitting here, the three of us, I think, as people who maybe have gotten a little bit of notoriety for being a bit positive through the darkest times of the season so far on the pitch. Now, recently, we're seeing something really funny, which is that I've noticed a lot of people telling me who are very negative that this last few games, even though we're not winning, have been some of the most positive for Ruben Amorim that we've seen this season. That the performances are improving, that they're starting to see things they weren't seeing before. To be fair, I think it's true. I think some of the changes are a bit overstated, but I think there's definitely been new wrinkles, new tactical things and things like that. However, United are not getting results still. And I'm curious as to you guys' thoughts on the biggest culprit, because we just spent all this time talking about the midfield. But the biggest culprits for the reason we've been losing recently, you could very much argue have been the center backs in large respects. Since with Mazraoui out, with De Ligt out, with Maguire out, Heaven and Euro have had a hell of a time. And look, I'm not trying to be hard on them because they don't have a choice.
Can I just say...
Can
I just say something before we get into the culprits for the results? Can I talk about the culprits for the positivity?
Yeah, go for that. Yeah,
because
do that.
I actually think this is as basic as Gary Neville starting to be a little bit positive, and he's leading the horse on the majority of the fan base that wants to be on the surface, right? Which is totally fine.
Yeah.
Like, listen, the three of us have no lives, right? We talk about United all day, every day.
All day, every day.
We go deeper, we go beyond the surface. For somebody that's got, 100 things going on in their life, I don't expect them to go beyond the Gary Neville podcast and just stop right there, right? Or read a few things on Twitter and stop right there. So I think Gary Neville's actually started to become a little bit more positive, even in our losses, where he said, I support Amorim, and even the reasoning for his support is so basic because he's seeing us go to a back four formation occasionally within the game. He's like, oh, I like that. That's a 4-4-2 is something I can get behind, The Brexit in him is just super happy seeing the 4-4-2. So I think it's as basic as that, which tells you so much about all the noise that's around United is that, somebody like Gary Neville who doesn't know his, elbow from his, what, you're just sitting there and saying, well, if he's positive, maybe I should be positive.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there because we've talked about it in the past. Like I said, we've been positive at times when people are negative, and a lot of times I've looked at it and go, what are you watching? Like, where are you? But then it does appear, you do forget that there's a lot of really surface level analysis out there. That is always going to be predicated on some really odd basic things. Like I tweeted after, Gary Neville was talking about, Amorim's changed so much in the system. And I said, explain it. Explain what he's actually changed. Because there's a few little things he has changed, but I don't think you know what it is. And I think it is as simple as that. He thinks it's a back four now. And so now it's a good system. Whereas it was 100% still a back three against Aston Villa. It was a 3-1-6
in build-up. We're still playing the 3-1-6.
Yeah. It's the
in
same
build-up,
as ever.
we're still playing the 3-1-6, yeah.
If anything, our fullbacks are even higher than ever before in these last few games. So, So it's whatever, right? But I do think it's that. But in terms of, getting the losses, I think you'd have to point to the center backs a bit. Lenny Oro's had a really rough month, honestly. If you look at things, he's starting from Palace, concedes a penalty to Mateta in the same spot that he concedes a long shot to Everton by not closing it down. That cost us the game there. Concedes 2 goals against Morgan Rogers in the same. And I'm not saying he's the only one at fault for those goals. There's disorganization between him and Heaven in the back line.
Oh, he was
There's
the only
lack of
one at fault for the first
protection.
one.
But the first one on Rogers is like he lets him take the touch out wide inexplicably at the touchline, lets him dribble it in, lets him take the shot on his foot exactly where he wants it to be. There's, regardless, he's a young player. We expect that. That's why I look at it and go, all right, it is what it is. We know that if we had options, we'd be rotating him in and out of the squad right now, trying to fix it up and had more experience. But could we then say, well, what about in January, looking at that, instead of it just talking about a midfield? Because like you said, there's a lot of holes in the squad we got to fix. What about center backs? And you said players outside of England. Well, there's players in England that United like at center back, like Mark Gahey could be an option, a good player that you could bring in. But there's definitely players outside of England they're looking at when it comes to center backs, and it's definitely an area of focus. And I'm wondering, would it not be reasonable, based on what we're seeing recently, to say center back might be just as important a position that we could, if we could add one in January, it would help us? What do you think, Semeex?
I think yes. I think that center back is very much a vital position that we need to address by summer. You're asking for in January, and then maybe the idea behind it, I'll answer it 2 ways. Maybe the idea behind it is that they're thinking, well, as soon as Maguire or De Ligt is back fit again, we were not going to need a center back as much as we need a midfielder instead of Casemiro. I think that I'll say it because I always say a certain person, but I'll say Mark Goldbridge made a video talking about how he doesn't think we're going for a midfielder because he thinks Ruben Amorim loves Casemiro and that he doesn't want to bring in a midfielder because then he won't have a reason to bench Casemiro, which I think is the dumbest take I've ever heard. And I actually even like that guy. But sometimes he's got like outrageously dumb takes, and that's one of them. Like, what do you mean? Why would a manager sabotage his own team? It makes no sense, especially when I know Ruben Amorim doesn't prefer a Casemiro type. He really doesn't. He wants...
He didn't want to play him at the beginning. We've talked about this before.
It took months to let him into the team. Yeah.
So this isn't a Ruben Amorim going, I don't want a midfielder because I don't want to bench Casemiro. I really like the way Casemiro and Bruno play. I think that we're desperate in the midfield because he's stuck in making no choices that he likes. I don't think Ruben Amorim likes any of his choices in midfield. Whereas in the center back role, I think he's suffering injuries right now, which is why he doesn't like his choices, probably. So that's where I would go with it. But if I was in Ineos, if I was Wilcox, I would get in 1 midfielder and 1 center back this January.
Yeah.
Because like you said, guys, I think that both of us are coming to the conclusion that this summer, coming up summer, we need at least 7 incomings. Why not do 2 of those now?
Yeah. I think that's the point, right? We need so many midfielders. We need so many everybody. There's got to be a couple we could get now. There just has to be. Let's just start our business a little early and get us a few more points. What do you think, Andy? Who would you bring in if you could at center back? Do you think it's something we should, or can we rely on De Ligt or Maguire coming back fit at any point in time?
Honestly, the question of whether we should is almost offensive at this point with the defending that we've seen. I think we absolutely need to get defenders. I think the biggest thing we're missing, Nelson, who's on my channel, pretty infamous at this point, he says that his problem with the Amorim system is that we need very specific world-class players for it to work, right? And my point is that no, it's actually more to do with the fit and the profile of player, not really that they have to be world-class. So 2 midfielders that I look like, and they're both in kind of different brackets here. One is Van Hecke at Brighton, right? He's a very good progressive passing midfield defender. Sorry, I said midfielder. Defender that I look at. Jan-Paul Van Hecke, he's an excellent progressive passer. And that's the type of like punchy passing that we need in defense that we actually see from Lisandro Martinez when he plays, right? Yep. He has that punchy passes. And the other guy is Marco Senesi at Bournemouth. He's out of contract. He's 29 years old. He's out of contract in the summer. I actually think you could just go to Bournemouth and say, listen, we'll take his wage off your book and we'll give you 5-7 million, whatever it takes for the 6 months. Let's go get him right now, because that's a need that we have. And he's experienced. He's 29 years old. Like I said, Argentina international, wants to play for Argentina in the World Cup. I think this is a player we should go get. So those are my two thoughts. I think Van Hecke is harder to do in January, but we should look at him in the summer for sure.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And then I think, again, maybe we're setting ourselves up for failure here, but we should be in the competition for Gueye, considering he's leaving in January or summer no matter what. Good, experienced Premier League player, plays in a back three, has the experience in the system, physical. He's the right type of reliable all-round center back that we could certainly use right now, that can play multiple positions as well. Even he's played, I think, across many different ones within there. But I think that make a huge difference, because, I kind of want to ask here, sort of the final section of this podcast, of like, do we have a chance at turning some of these positive performances into results? It's been, I feel the performances have been better and the results worse than what I expected during this period. Like, I thought we'd perform a little worse than this, but grind out some of these results. But we're getting the opposite right now, where we're actually performing maybe better than we have for much of the season in build up and play and control and dominating games. We're starting to really do it and show some really impressive things, but we can't defend, and we're getting these huge errors, and it feels like we should be able to. Do you think, prediction time now, with Newcastle coming up on Boxing Day, and then what should be the easiest run of games we're going to get for the rest of the season between Leeds, Burnley, and Wolves, can we pick up
Leeds?
Three
Leeds
wins
is not
in
an
here?
easy team.
I
Leeds
hear that,
just
but
beat
they're still
Palace
in
4-1.
six. I know, but it should be. It should be for us a team that we're beating, I believe. Should be. Not saying we will, because we don't always do what we should, and that's okay. What? Let me ask you in a different kind of context of this question.
James,
What
before
needs to
you give us the
happen?
question, sorry,
Yeah,
1
go
second.
ahead.
Just before you give us the question, speaking of results being better than the performances, did anyone else's blood boil when Unai Emery took his jacket off and threw it on the floor for doing absolutely flipping nothing for that game? I thought this guy was a good coach, man. He took Villarreal to he won so many Europa Leagues with crap teams. He's done nothing to get those guys up there.
Well, I will tell you, I think Ruben totally outcoached him in the last game.
Yeah.
I mean, what we did in the midfield when they had the ball, when they were trying to build up, we gave them no options to build up. They resorted to trying to hit their zone 16 long. They had nothing for us in the middle, and it was a masterclass in setup. The way we set up with the three midfielders with Ugarte right behind them, it was a masterclass in the way we set up. We didn't press them either. By the way, we changed our whole mentality. We only pressed in the counter press. We didn't press when they were building up from their goalkeeper. We only pressed when they took the ball away from us. We pressed for about 3 or 4 seconds, and if it didn't work, then we dropped back into that shape with the three midfielders and Ugarte right behind them. It was a great masterclass by Ruben. We shouldn't have lost that game. It's a heartbreaking game to lose, and that's why I didn't make the tactical video. I'll be honest with everybody. I already did the work. I just don't know how to express how heartbroken I am or how angry I am at some of the plays that our youngsters made. So if I made that video, just like James was saying about Lenny Yoro and some of the Heaven mistakes, I would just go off on the young kids. And that's what happened in the last 2 games. Not just the last game, but the one before that too.
Yeah, correct.
And I don't want to make videos where I go off on these young kids. And I don't know how to be politically, calm about obvious
Semeex,
mistakes.
the other thing in that game was Mason Mount. He really stepped up after Bruno Fernandes got injured, right? Because he was dropping into the pocket on the left-hand inside channel.
Actually, that brings me to a question I wanted to ask you guys. Andy, amazing point. I want to ask you, I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I want to ask you guys, who's our captain now, guys? And don't tell me who our actual captain is. I want to know from your mindset, who would you make captain, and then a brief reason
Cunha.
as to why.
It's gonna be Cunha for me.
So there's two parts to this. One is who wears the armband, and the other one is who's the leader.
Casemiro's gonna wear
pitch.
the armband, and for me, it's Cunha. That's the captain. That's how I see it.
Okay.
To
Yeah, that's
answer
fair.
really, really quickly. Yeah.
So for me, I don't care who has the armband on, honestly, because what does it mean? You just get to go moan at the referee, which again, who can replace that portion from Bruno Fernandes, right? But I think the leader on the pitch, it's going to be split. I think it's going to be Mount, it's going to be Cunha, that's going to carry that load. And I want to see Luke Shaw step it up a bit as well.
I actually think Luke Shaw gets the armband.
I was thinking of.
I think Luke Shaw gets the armband because he gets to talk to the referee.
That's
like
true.
No, you know what I mean? Like no one else.
And he's less likely to get a yellow and get subbed off at some point.
Right, exactly.
So.
Like I think Luke Shaw gets the armband because he's probably going to talk to ref a lot more calm than any of the other guys. But as for like leading on the pitch, I think you're right. Like I think it has to be like Cunha, Mount, the guys who have the most energy throughout a game, right? And what's funny to me is that everybody said Cunha was a walker on the pitch. I don't see it. Like, I don't see a guy who just walks up and down. Like, I see a guy who really puts in a lot of energy.
He tries to do too much. He has a little bit of the early Bruno problem, which is he doesn't release the ball early enough because he's still stuck in Wolves sometimes.
Yep. So then, yes. No, it's good. It's good. The question was, what do you think needs to be like? Because again, do we just need a little bit of luck? Do we just need like one less mistake to turn these performances into wins? Because sometimes luck is just not on your side. You know, Morgan Rogers hits 2 goals. I know it's Morgan Rogers, and I know he's in form, and I know of that. It's still 2.03 XG shots he scores on. It's still, even for Morgan Rogers, it was lucky, you know, or unlucky for us. Let's not take credit away from him. Yeah. Unlucky for us that even with it being Morgan Rogers right now, he's scoring 2 off of 0.03. Even with Bournemouth, that every one of their goals is just perfectly taken, you know, in that game going 4-4. Do we just need a little bit of luck? Is it likely to turn in our favor a little bit anyway, just on the balance of the dice rolls? Or is something else got to change for this to work out? What do you think? How are we going to get some points?
I want to go before Andy because I think I'm going to lead him into like a perfect place where he can pick up from. And I want to say that for me, just on the pitch, I see Šeško missing that opportunity. That, don't get me wrong, I think their goalkeeper, Martinez, did an amazing job coming out when he did and making the goal a lot smaller. And then you've got the Cunha opportunity where he missed that header that there's really no excuse for. I can't even say that the goalkeeper did anything there. It was a wide open header. He had his eyes on it the whole time. He should have put that away. And then you've got the mistakes by the 2 young defenders, especially Euro in that last game. Things that are as easy as just close down the space. Like, the ball didn't go out of bounds. I don't know why you gave him all that space to pick up pace and dribble at you. Like, go foul him. Go foul him over there. Like, why, you know, he saved the ball, push him out of bounds. Give him a gentle nudge out of bounds. It'll probably be called a foul. It won't be a yellow card. And just pick it up from there. So I think those 2 things that I just said have to do with XG and XGA, right? It has to do with us putting away the XGs and getting our XG like conversion rate higher. And then the XGA, things that they shouldn't even have a chance to score that goal. Andy, you take it from there because I think the answer to that is as simple as the data just not lining up with the results.
Guys, Lenny Euro in 17 matches this season across 1,000 minutes has 0 yellow cards. 0 yellow cards. Are you kidding me?
No, that's
Are you
true.
kidding
like,
me?
You can't Yeah, you can't play in a physical league like this. Like, go in there and hit somebody, man.
Yeah.
He needs to go watch tape of James Tarkowski, the most Brexit center backs he can go find, Eric Dyer, right? Just go watch tapes of them and how they've mastered the dark arts and survived in a league that relies on physicality, right? Because I see Lenny Euro falling over. I see a 5'6", 5'7" center back impersonating a 6'3" center back in Lenny Euro. That's my problem with him, right? Semeex, you wanted to get some stuff off your chest. I'll say what you wanted to say, and just be like, Lenny Euro, the mistakes he's making, he should be defending those in his sleep because those are physicality things. These are things he's been good at since he was 14, 15. That's what we bought him for, right? If he made a mistake in terms of not reading the system or playing the wrong pass at the wrong time, I could excuse that as like, oh, he's young, he needs to learn. But the mistakes he made there, unforgivable. But what was your question, Semeex? Sorry, I need to get that off my chest.
Isn't it just a matter of the data lining up
the
with
underperformance? Yeah, the underperformance. Okay, so I'm gonna get some hate for this. So in our Stat Patters episode, I predicted 9 points out of these 5 games that started with Villa. After the Bruno Fernandes injury, we'll be lucky to get 6 is my prediction, because I don't think the Leeds game is going to be easy. We're going to have, if we thought the players aren't good enough to perform as the system is generating the chances, that part is going to get even worse, because we're going to have Shea Lacey taking some of these chances. We're going to have Jack Fletcher taking some of these chances, and we don't have the main guy. Bruno Fernandes is the guy that was enabling us to do all of this, right? Because technically the Amorim system is overcommitting players to create some of these chances, right? That's a reality. That's why we have such bad XGA. Because you saw the Bruno interview with Rio. We do play a 3-1-6. He tells Bruno, like, you need to realize when is the right time to go forward. We already have the front 5 in the 3-4-3, and you have Bruno joining them. That's why we get exposed so many times on the defense. So maybe we stop overcommitting that much, so we might see slightly better defense, but we're going to see a much worse attack. So I think there's going to be games, instead of drawing 4-4, we could lose 1-0 or 2-1, like we saw in the Villa game.
I think that, and I hate being right on this point, but I think me and James last podcast let you know, Andy, that maybe it was time we start thinking about moving on from Bruno Fernandes, and that he's aging and stuff like that. And then he gets a soft tissue injury right afterwards, which I only think gets worse with age, that James was already pointing out earlier in the podcast. So I hate to be right again and James being right again. But I think, Andy, you have to admit now that moving on from Bruno Fernandes is not a bad thing, and that we need to start to think about it, especially because he's aging.
I think you're looking at this the wrong way, dude. I'm the one who is proven right. We're losing him for half a game, and we're already shitting bricks here.
Because we haven't planned for life after him, though.
Right. Dude, we can't just fix like 5 problems in our team that one player changes in one window.
Look,
we just fixed our team.
No. That's why I tuned in. That's why I tuned into United Muppetiers, though, because he's going to tell me how we plan to fix these 5 problems from now to
Let's see what happens in these next 3 or 4 games.
My point is that he is one player in the aggregate is too important to this team to just say, you know what, let's just replace him. Because I'm telling you, we're going to look at the other players that we're going to bring in. And let's say when we bring in 3 players, if one of them doesn't work out, we can't replace Bruno Fernandes. So my point is that we should just be a little bit chill about saying, you know what, life after Bruno looks good because we can fix the problem. I'm just saying it's a hard problem to solve.
Let's see what happens these next few games, because I think they'll be really telling. It's the longest stretch without Bruno that we have ever had since his arrival. By far, by the way, because the longest stretch has been like 1 game, and some of them inconsequential games in that matter. It's the longest stretch that we're going to have. Obviously, some of it comes at a difficult time. There's a chance we'll have some of the AFCON guys back before Bruno for a few games. So we'll see almost a more complete team just without Bruno in terms of what we have right now. I think it'd be really interesting to see that. I personally believe that we're going to see not a better performance, but potentially a slightly more compact defensive performance. I think it's just going to come down to guys like Cunha and Mount taking a little more responsibility, which I think they want anyway. And if they can execute, then it'll be all right. And we will
also,
be okay.
Can I just go back to the blasphemy that Semeex just did there? Because this guy has missed 3 games in his United career, and the second he's out for one half. He hasn't even been out for the second game yet. And you're like, see, I told you we should move on.
I'm just saying it's time to plan, dude. I mean, he's getting injured now. He's injury prone now.
First of all, I didn't say I did injury prone. Oh my!
Dude,
okay,
when you
guys,
pull up,
No. Let's fine. And then Semeex was getting upset on my live show when Ayush was calling him out about the Bruno take. Come on, man. Come on. Injury prone after one injury in his whole career?
Dude, you got to pre-plan, dude. You got to pre-plan. Like, why would I keep
you realize injury prone means more than one injury, right? Kobe Maino's injury prone.
Yeah. Look, this is a good discussion, and
by the way,
I think
I just like triggering Andy. It's fun to watch him just kind of. Like...
Oh, no, you're not triggering me, dude. You're gonna see the real Bruno talk now. Please join in on every live that I do this week, Semeex, because you're gonna be thrown under the bus.
Next
You
Wednesday.
definitely don't want, and I've had some people telling me that James has been Bruno out for the longest time too.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm coming with all the smoke for both of you guys.
Let's see in a week. Let's see in a week what happens. Because the fact is we don't know. One of the severe unknowns here is we can speculate in many different directions, and the truth is we really do not know how this team will look without Bruno. I actually don't think we do at all, right? One way or another. We could be totally wrong. We could completely be worse than expected. I expect we will be slightly worse in the short term, but there's some things that could change. What if we just blow up and we win a few games? There's going to be a lot of really interesting takes after that. But hey, let's see what happens.
Well,
let's see what
James,
happens.
if you look at the shot map
Man.
from the Villa game, we only took like 2 or 3 shots from inside the box.
But we had that Cunha chance with Bruno off the pitch. It was our best chance of the game.
Which is
at
the
that
header?
point in time.
Yeah, the
Talking
cross.
about the header.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but you go look at the shot map, right? And we are resorting to a lot of shots from outside the box, which I think we will start seeing a lot more because we don't have that incisiveness in the final third. But we'll see, man. Apparently, Bruno is the worst player that's
Was
ever
Bruno
played for
holding
us.
Cunha back? That's the question that we'll answer on the next podcast.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, he's holding Ruben Amorim back.
Okay.
You know, he's secretly wearing a City jersey underneath, and doesn't want to play for us.
Well, let's end it there. I think that's a good place to wrap it up, and we'll see what comes over these next couple of games. Again, a Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. I hope you're enjoying it with your people, your family, everybody else. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, to Annie with Footy with an Edge, other way, that way. And Semeex as well. All the links are going to be below, and this is going to be shared or collaborated on their channels as well. And then we will be back next week. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you both. We'll talk again soon.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Bye.